Welcome back to the intersection where this week we're discussing the sound of hope because here in the intersection on South by East podcast, we discuss everything from the scriptures to music, the culture, and everything in between.
Yes, sir.
Braille. So, man, with this we had heard about this movie because we partnered with an organization called Care Portal.
Right.
And then we didn't think it was going to come to our city at all. At first, it wasn't scheduled to come at all. And then it was only scheduled to be here for a couple of days. And then, man, it just started getting these reviews and everything else.
Yeah.
It's a topic that hits close to home. So why don't you kind of tee some of this up?
So let me start like this. So we heard about this months ago, but I saw it. It was like, okay, movie coming up, it's inspirational. Yeah, it's a big deal. Great. By the time it got here, I'd forgotten all about it.
Yeah.
And so I saw you and other people sharing about it on social media. I'm like, wow, this looks impactful. And it was the week of my wife's birthday. And so I was like, hey, she's like, I'd really like to see it. I said, well, it's your birthday week. Let's go out for your birthday. Let's go see it. We'll make time. So we went to go see the movie. Now, again, I hadn't really paid that much attention. I didn't know what this was about. I knew it was a big deal. So I'm in the movie, right? I just knew it was a big deal, and we didn't want to miss it. I'm in the movie, and I'm watching. And the story is just being set up so masterfully. And it's like 30 minutes into the movie when I go, oh, that's what this is about. Whew, this is good. So you don't end up like me. Let me let you know. This is the story of Possum Trot, Texas, and how a small church in Possum Trot, Texas started taking their journey into foster care and adoption, right? And they started adopting the small church. They started adopting the hardest to place kids in the foster care system in that part of Texas. And it went from one family in that church to the whole of the church to multiple churches in the city to where
I would say it didn't start with one family. It started with
one person,
a wife and her
started with
sister.
a wife and her sister that it extended to the family. But it really masterfully tells the story of what it looks like. I have adopted children. I have friends who foster, who adopt. And there are some similarities in those stories and in those children. And it really tells the story of what it looks like to love those who are coming from hard places, and just the difficulty of parenting, the difficulty of adoption, and some of the things that you come up against in that process as well.
But bro, I would say even in there's this other story too of, man, like the husband on the front end just being like, hey, he's been that realist. You know, every relationship kind of has that person who is like the visionary. Like, oh, we can do this and we can do this, and then you have the person that's the realist of like, and we got this bill and we got that bill and this coming up. Like, hey, that dog ain't gonna hunt. Like all these things ain't adding up. And man, like he was this leader. The husband was a pastor of this church, this small church in the under-resourced community. I felt like they did age things too far. I'm like, man, like they hit in the 90s, and I'm like, all this, man, they aged some stuff in there, and I'm like, I spent time in East Texas. I got family.
Yeah, I wasn't in the South like that, so I don't
I'm
know.
like, fam, they got us out here looking. They got us out here looking like Beverly Hills Billies out here in Northeast Texas, man. I'm like, that's like Northeast Texas. That's my neck of the woods. Yeah. I'm like, fam, you got us out here looking.
It wasn't like that.
Bro, I'm like, I was in high school during this time. So it did look real bad. I was like, man, they got us looking bad out here.
But I loved even how they shared the story of the wife's mental health journey and how she starts out struggling in this struggling place. And that's part of the reason the husband was like, hey, fam, you can't even take care of yourself. I'm trying to take care of you.
And it highlights, her journey highlights how you can't go into this looking to fulfill some other gap in your life.
No.
The other deal is, man, but I feel this guy so much as a leader, bro, where he's in this under-researched church. Yeah. He has these needs. He's trying to help everyone in the congregation. He has these needs. He see this other church that has more resources. And man, he's like having to humble himself to go ask, and he's treated a certain way. And then when you like, we're all preaching the same gospel. We all preaching the same scriptures. We quoting Matthew 6 and 8. We're talking about what pure and undefiled religion looks like. And we got sermon series, and it's like, well, I can't help you because, man, we got this building experience. We got all these different things. And you're like, so this ain't really serious, right? But we're going to do a series. You're going to do a sermon series on this, but
taking care of the widows and the orphans. But we ain't going to actually take care of the
we
orphans.
ain't going to, like, no, man. And it's like how our competing values play a part. And, like, even here locally, man, we're dealing with that with our unsheltered brothers and sisters right now. And a lot of people talking about some different things, but actual mobilization. When we look at, man, our substance use disorder brothers and sisters, when we look at the foster care system and different things of that nature, and so those things exist. A couple of years ago, we did a whole sermon series around Christmas time where I focused on the foster care system, and people were like, man, you got to stop this series. You can't talk about this around Christmas. It makes me feel bad. And I'm like,
good.
Man, I don't know how orphans or anything like that fit into the Christmas story. I just can't figure it out.
I'm like, man, our hearts should be broken. When things are broken around us, our hearts should be broken. We shouldn't feel good about that. In this movie, throughout the movie, I was like, this is so anxiety-inducing because I kept thinking, when are they going to have enough? And when are they going to send these children back? And it was like, how could they possibly endure this? And I turned to my wife after it was over, and I was like, this is a master class in what it looks like to love people.
And bro, I just said, I didn't know how detailed it was going to be. So when we went to the movie, we took our kids, and that was maybe a mistake. And we were sitting in the movie, and we kind of looked at each other. We were like, I didn't. And so
how did they react?
They had a lot of questions, man, and we've had a hard time as a family since.
Yeah.
Real hard time. And I'm not blaming it on the movie. This is probably been the hardest. Like you know my family. You've been around my family and my kids. They have a lot of different needs, and we've weathered a lot of that and been like really good. Like still been like super positive about it, right?
Yeah.
And we're just in a period of time, man, where this has been the hardest period of parenting for Trisha and I. Like where even with all this stuff of just heartbroken upon heartbreak, and just it's hard for me not to look at that movie, and in some ways it's guilt inducing because man, you get to your point, man, where you saying like, fam, like I don't know if I got any more. Right? And then you like, well, but they, and then you also, like, man, it's just some things that are a struggle.
Yeah.
And you feel like, man, I'm at my end. And that's why I like the rawness of some points of like, a couple of years ago, Trisha and I went to a whole day seminar about just how a parent, like when you're fostering and adopting, how you can get into a point of what they call blocked care. And it's like where emotionally you reach this point where it's hard for you to connect with your kid just because you get so worn out, you get so damaged, you get so hurt. And it was just how to overcome block. And we went to this thing, mainly it was like my wife is a therapist, she got to get CEU, so we went to this whole pre-conference, a day-long training thing, and we were like, man, that's sad that you would ever get to that point and different things of that nature. Yeah. And then the other day, man, like seriously, I was in a room, my wife was on the floor, and we just breaking down crying. Of like, we're tired, we're hurt, and that's the deal. It's like, man, this stuff ain't just for Hollywood, bro, and this ain't. this ain't the glamour story, and it gets real. And um, we try to talk with people all the time about, man, like you can't go into this saying like all the stuff I did for this or that. Like that kid never asked you to come be their hero or anything else,
Right.
and
No.
you're not their hero. Jesus Christ is their hero. And looking at the movie, looking at their story, and I like how hard they stayed on the hard.
Yep.
And even like you can even see at the end, it's like there were still moments to celebrate, but you can as they roll those stories out at the end, you can like, oh man, there's still a
There's a
lot.
lot that happened after that.
And a
Yeah,
lot that's going
you're
on,
right now.
and
Yep.
things ain't perfect, right? And
No.
it's like, but they don't have to be perfect.
No.
And it's a fight, man. But I can tell you this, like I feel like there's a main hindrance from us seeing a repeat of Possum Trot
What's that? And I think it's gonna link into something I wanted to say too.
is the type of community they had.
It's exactly where I was gonna go. The
And
community, man. Because there were moments where parents were like, I don't have any more to give. I
yeah,
just don't have it. And you see this creativity and this tenacity that comes from there's this heart and desire to see those kids loved, where other people in the community go, okay, if you can't take them, can we do it together? How can we? And everyone just starts going,
or
how do we make it happen?
we're gonna shift this kid from this
This house
household
to this
household.
household.
And here's the deal. It's gonna be some shift, but this kid has been loved in community.
Community to where
So it's not gonna be as a big a shift as we send them out of the community.
right, they're still around their friends. They're still around loving adults that they know they're related to. And I was like, dang, like the power of that community struck me so hard because you could tell none of those parents could do that on their own.
But can I say this too? One of the things that I felt like built that community was the times that you could see they were on their face before God.
Yeah.
In their prayer life, man. And it was just like, I was like,
Wow.
man, it was just like on their, like together on their face before God, like pleading for each other, pleading for the kids and everything. Like so much of that was just bathed in fear. And not in fear, but in prayer.
Yeah.
And I was like, man. And it was just like, okay. Okay, and it was like they showed them like getting upset. Like that one time, she was like, "Man, I don't like these kids. I don't like none of this.
She
I
was
don't
like,
like.
I'm done.
I'm done.
I'm done.
I'm done." And you like anybody who's being real will say, and if they're married, will say they have to have somebody talking about religion. And even if you single doing this journey, you probably have some people that like talk to you off the ledge of like, And so it's one of those deals that it is a continual deal of just looking at this is a journey, and man, it can't be done alone. You need community.
Yep.
There's no way to do this walk without community. I can say, if it wasn't for the Fellowship Hi-Crest body, me and Trisha wouldn't have made it this long. And whew. And so it's just like that deal, and I know you have your own adoption story, man, that we've walked and we've cried and prayed for each other, man, and just
I've been there. I've been at the block. I done been at the. There's a moment where the husband is just walking through. He's like, I've done this, and I've gone out and got that, and I went out and did this. What else am I supposed to do? And I've been there where I've walked around my neighborhood just praying like, God, what am I supposed to do? Why did you put me here?
Hey, fam.
What am I supposed to do?
I had that talk with God. I was like, I've been in some days where I was like, I'm not going home.
Yeah.
I'm about to get in the truck.
Woo.
And I'm about to go as far as my money will take me. I ain't coming back to nothing or no one. Fam, like you really being in that place and like being so tired and heartbroken and done and just saying this is a real deal. And then having people reach out and be like, hey, I want to speak something into your heart right now.
And I think there's a temptation when we see stories like this. I think that's why it's great that they did show at the end where people were at. Because there's this temptation that all of us feel like we're the protagonists in our own story. And it's like at the worst, we feel like, man, this story ends with the protagonist, the hero getting taken out. And at the best, it's like the story ends with the hero getting the girl at the end or really succeeding at the end. And life is neither, man. I was reading just the Bible Project that had this overview of Job, the book of Job. And they're just talking about how in the book of Job, this narrative in the Bible, how Job starts out, it kind of starts out asking this question of God's justice and how does God run the world and how does God govern the world, and is suffering okay? Is suffering just? Is suffering all right? And at the end, God does not explain why he allows suffering at all. But yet you get this sobering understanding that you don't actually understand what's going on in the world around you. And your experience in that world is fleeting and small, and it's important to God, but it does not, the universe does not revolve around you and what you want. And when you step into these types of stories, when you just step into hard and loving somebody through hard, whether it's through adoption or addiction or any other manner of difficulty and hard, you do not get to have a happy ending. You might, but it is not promised, and it's not the goal. And that's why that pastor and his wife could sit at the end of that video going, hey, we want to call you guys into doing the same thing. If we could do it, you could do it too. But it's not, they're not calling you into a happy ending. They're saying there's a need and there are people who need to be loved, and God has called us to love them, period.
Man, I'm reading that Job is one of the things I'm reading through right now also. And the other day I was driving, in my heart right now, I'm truly struggling. And I was like, God, man, if I got friends right now, I need them to leave before they feel like they need to say anything. And it was like the first 3 days where people just came and said, I was like, I really ain't got space for it right now. And just, I had to go back, like another place where I'm reading is, through Isaiah and another one of my, morning readings. And yesterday I hit Isaiah 58, and it was just one of those deals where I was like, at the end of Isaiah 58, it gets into that part, what it looks like the Sabbath, what your Sabbath should look like. And it was saying how it was one of those deals where like you're not seeing to your own needs and all these different things. And I was like, man, God, how do I square this, man, with just the rest I feel like I need, and just trying to square those things up. And I was just like, man, where does this sit at? Right. And really being real about that and feeling like you're just seeing so much loss and suffering around you and trying to process all those things all the time. And it's not just, being in the ministry, man, you're constantly seeing it in people's lives. And you counsel on that. Being a leader, man, we talk, being a leader and have to hold people accountable. Have to lean in and saying like, a lot of time our preface is like, I'm not upset. And it's like, I'm not upset. And I'm going to share this with you. And I got to let you know this. And this is the point of accountability.
Right.
But I'm not upset. And it's like, that's the deal, is like, I haven't always been able to say that either, because there's been some times really where I've been.
We're upset.
I was like really upset. And it's like, now I'm just at a point in life where a lot of times where, man, I'm not upset, and I got to hold accountable, and I'm like, and I get this like, this is one more area, like this is one more deal. And that's why, like, man, that the father in that family, bro, I get it. Yeah. I get it, man. I get it on so many levels. Yeah. But I can tell you, bro, I'm not usually the one that like cry in movies or anything like that. Man, when he made that phone call and she said there's not a kid within a 100-mile radius of Possum Trot
that needs a home.
Bro, I ugly cried, bro. Bro, I ugly cried, and I was like, that's kingdom. Mm-hmm. That's kingdom, bro.
If you ever wonder, come on. What heaven looks like, looking like me and you, boy.
I was like, and it's possible.
Yeah.
But there's some people that want to be unsheltered, and there's some people who want to be sheltered.
Yep.
Those who want to be sheltered, we have a way of making it happen.
Yeah.
For those who are in the foster care system, there's enough families currently in churches
Yep.
to make it where they're not in foster homes, where kids have a place. We like to use scriptures like there'll always be need to absolve us of the part we can actually play in really showing that the kingdom is already here. Because it's hard.
It is.
It's hard, man. It's hard to love consistently. It's hard to love persistently also.
Yeah.
And I'm glad I saw the movie when I did.
Yeah. Man, if you haven't, I want to encourage you to check out The Sound of Hope. It is a sobering but very real, very powerful movie. And if you haven't considered being a part of foster care and adoption reunification around you, consider that. There are organizations like Care Portal, organizations like the Foster the Cause. There are organizations right here in
KCSL.
Topeka, KCSL.
But I would say even before that, man, it's going to be almost impossible for you not to know a foster adoptive family. Go ask what you can do to walk beside them. I kind of my first foray into it before I was even married. I had some friends that they didn't have kids. So they used to just show up on certain nights of the week, and no, they did have kids, but they would show up certain nights of the week for their friends who were fostering to help at the end of mealtime and at bedtime, the whole bedtime routine.
Yeah.
It was just alleviating that piece from that family, because that was the hardest time of the day. And I just think, man, there's so many times I can think of, like, just me and Trisha being able to get a date night. Like, man, if we didn't and truly, like, man, it takes a special person. Like, and we burn through, like, childcare and different things of that nature. Like, people go through toilet paper, bro.
It's hard. It's hard,
after
man.
school care, different things of that nature, it's hard. And so having some people that understand, that know, and like, hey, I'm in this with you. I'm not giving up on you or the kids. Like, I know you need this, and so I'm gonna fight through some stuff.
And that's important to understand, that you can walk beside a family. Like, my adoption story is different, as it was my wife's children, and I adopted from there. And I was like, man, maybe I should adopt kids. And I started realizing all these families around me who were adopting, and I was like, man, for one, my own kids have their needs, and I realized, like, it's enough. But then also, man, I can invite some of these other kids to be a part of my family. I could be Uncle Brail to a lot of kids and take them on some times and love on their parents and do different things like that. And my wife and I found a way to help and work in there. And so it is looking around and saying, like, here's where I'm at. What am I blessed with? What can I do? Man, comment, like, subscribe, all those things. Let's continue this conversation in the comments. Check out the movie if you haven't. Share that. It's a fantastic piece of art for a great cause.
Don't take your kids.
Learn from the mistakes of others. Don't take your kids. It is heavy. It is a heavy movie. I didn't have any tears left to cry when I came out of there. But man, it's worth it. Leaning into hard is worth it. But we'll continue to see you next week on The Intersects.